Greetings, it's another beautiful day here on the Darling Downs. Won't be here for much longer. We're about to cross the border into New South Wales, Shire, although I'm going to be going even further than that because, the rangers do work all across the Northern Rivers region of New South Wales and up into the Northern Tablelands. So it's going to be interesting. A few weeks ago we planted 1,000 trees on a private property trying to connect two pieces of eucalyptus woodland, prime koala habitat, and they did a survey there a few years ago, and that region has the highest density of koalas in New South Wales. So that's very, very cool. Very cool. If I see any koalas, I'll try to get some footage of that later on. I haven't been all the way up into the prime woodland where they surveyed, but we were replanting. So going back today to see how the trees are going. We'll probably have to set up irrigation because it's very dry at the moment. We haven't had any rain yet. It's just super dry. A bit of condensation on the car because it's early morning. It's another cool one, down to 8 degrees. Days are still nice and warm. Nights are steadily cooling off. And right now we are driving to the Queensland-New South Wales border. Alright, just a few seconds. We're in Queensland. And wait for it. We're in New South Wales. There we go. Crossing to another state. Cool. Alright. So today I wanted to talk about the fact that Australia is not a free country. Now there's some very interesting things happening here politically. I was watching a speech from Angus Taylor, the new opposition leader in the Liberal National Coalition. And now he's suddenly talking quite tough on immigration. It almost sounds a bit Trumpian, policies that I would very much support when it comes to immigration. Now, One Nation, which is a genuine conservative right-wing alternative, has been making massive inroads, rising up. And the Liberal National Coalition has lost a ton of support because they've been so weak on all these different issues and really not standing for anything. So people are like, why should we vote for you when we have the choice of Labor, which is a clear left-wing party there in power? If we have a choice between them versus One Nation, a genuine conservative opposition. So why would we vote for you? So they seem to be doing a bit of damage control and all that. And one thing that they were talking about when it comes to the immigration policy is they want to test for Australian values. That's right, Australian values test. Now there's already a waiver that immigrants have to sign when they get residency, citizenship, where it's I agree to follow Australian laws and all that and abide by the values, but it's a bit wishy-washy. They want to make it more legally binding, and then basically it's well, if you don't follow Australian values, that's it, you're out, you're done. So very interesting, very, very interesting. And I myself, if you're new to the channel, if you can't tell, I'm from a migrant background. I'm the first person in my family born and raised in Australia. First generation born and raised in this country, and I fully consider myself Aussie, and I love this country. I defend it. So I support this because look, I have nothing against immigrants on a personal level. I have a lot of sympathy for people. They come from difficult situation, war-torn regions, poverty, and they want to move somewhere for a better life for themselves, their family, give their kids better opportunities. I totally sympathize with that position. Now, my parents did not come from any immediate hardship when they migrated here. My mum is from Austria. She didn't come from any hardship. Austria is a developed Western nation, although her family in Austria, they weren't the best off, let's just put it that way. They did come from some difficult circumstances, but still not war-torn region or extreme poverty, not directly. Although my grandparents on my mum's side in Austria, they were severely affected during the Second World War, and I've heard some stories with that my dad's side of the family was more affected by stuff like that. I mean, my dad's family in Sri Lanka over there, fairly well off, but when my dad was growing up, that was during the Sri Lankan Civil War, and yeah, that was really quite, man, I don't even want to go into that now because that would require a whole video on its own. But yeah, look, my dad grew up during a difficult time in Sri Lanka. He ended up going to Europe. Basically, he and his brothers ended up having to leave the country. Getting better economic opportunities was really the main reason at the time, because the war wasn't really in the part of the country where my dad grew up, but still it was wartime in Sri Lanka. There wasn't any opportunities there. There was always, of course, the threat that the conflict could escalate. So yeah, anyway, my dad, through his profession, he managed to get his way to Europe. He always worked. He wasn't like, he was never like, what you see today with, like, he wasn't a refugee, all right, let's put it that way. He went legally to Europe, worked in several countries there, eventually settled in Austria, in Vienna, and yeah, met my mum there. And yeah, that's basically going into my whole family story. It is a story of immigration, right? So yeah, and they lived there for like 10-15 years, and then my dad and my mom, eventually they always spoke English at home. That was like a common language. Of course, they couldn't speak each other's language, and yeah, my dad can actually speak fairly good German. He had to learn it, of course, being in Austria. But yeah, English was always the main language spoken at home, and yeah, eventually they just decided they wanted to move to an English-speaking country. So yeah, there were all different options on the table. It's funny, they both said they don't want to go to the UK. They just, too overrun, overcrowded. This is back then, like in the few decades ago already. They said that, so that's interesting. They said that they don't want to go to the UK. But they did want to go. The options they had pretty much were Canada, US, Australia, New Zealand. Those are the options considering. And yeah, my dad almost would have got residency in Canada. So there's actually a high chance that I would have been born in Canada and not Australia. That would be interesting. But yeah, eventually. Yeah, and he would have actually been accepted to New Zealand as well. Like, he would have had options there because my dad already had family in New Zealand. So yeah, anyway, but Canada would have been more. He would have been able to go there, but it would have been trickier then for my mom to get in. So yeah, that didn't end up happening. So then the option was Australia and New Zealand. And New Zealand, he actually would have gotten accepted, but at the same time, he got an offer in Australia. Where I grew up, I grew up in Southeast Queensland. He got a job offer there, and yeah, he ended up choosing Australia rather than New Zealand because Australia has significantly better pay. It's interesting, even today there's so many Kiwis that move to Australia because cost of living, Australia, New Zealand, very similar, but wages are significantly better here. Like, we earn 20-30% more compared to our Kiwi brothers. So yeah, that's why my parents eventually chose Australia. And yeah, they came to Australia legally. They worked from day one, never on any welfare, never on any handouts. And yeah, back then immigration was different, very different. They even Angus Taylor spoke about it in his speech yesterday about how immigration has changed. Because, like, it's true, Australia is a country built on immigrants. It's true. That is a true statement. It is. You have Indigenous Australians, of course, and they no doubt have an important role to play in modern Australia and will continue to do so. But going back all through the colonial period, there was migration, of course, from the British Isles a lot, UK, like Britain, Ireland, a lot of migration. And then other parts of Europe eventually, and then furthermore from other parts of the world eventually after the White Australia policy ended. Did you know that Australia had White Australia policy? It was from the time of Federation till 1970, I think sometime in the 1970s, early 70s, Australia had the White Australia policy. So immigration was basically restricted to European countries. So Australia, being this multicultural, multiracial country that it is today, is actually a very recent phenomenon. Up until fairly recently, Australia was quite homogenous. You've had the indigenous population, of course, but apart from that, it was like 98% European. So it's fairly recent, that non-European migration to Australia. That's a fairly recent phenomenon. But yeah, immigration has changed significantly. It's no longer the same as it was, because back then, like, you had a lot of people from other European countries, Poland, Italy, like they came over here a lot after World War II, Greeks as well, and especially the Poles and the Italians. They worked on infrastructure projects such as the Snowy Hydro scheme. They helped build this country. So there was a clear purpose of immigration back then. After the war, Australia was growing. Australia needed labour and workers, so they imported, especially a lot of people from European countries after World War II. Then after Vietnam War, Vietnamese came over. But and all these waves of immigration, like all these groups, Greeks, Vietnamese, Italians, Poles, other Europeans, some other non-Europeans, Lebanese. For the most part, like these people, these groups, they came over, and after after a few generations, like it's now a few generations later, they perfectly integrated into Australian culture. No problem at all. At the time, of course, there were issues, and like I've heard stories from some of these people from these groups growing up. There was discrimination. There was racism towards them. The wogs, as they are called. There was discrimination, no doubt. But still, there was a clear purpose of the immigration system then. And a lot of these people, they helped build Australia. They came over and were a net positive. But today, the standards have significantly lowered. The numbers are way too high. Like since Labor came into power, the current Labor government, since they came into power, Australia's population has grown by 3.5 million. For a country of, now we're above 28 million. For a country of that size, 3.5 million in just a few years is absolutely insane. Our net migration is among the highest in the world per capita. It's just way too high. Way too high. It's insane. So, that's where we're at now. It's unsustainable. It is. Like, you look at the amount of houses that have been built, you look at the immigration rate, like, definitely, you can't say it's not. Migration is a big component of why housing is unaffordable. Not the only component. People will rightly point out there's other things as well. Negative gearing, all this other stuff. There's all this other stuff with it. But it's immigration standards have lowered. The numbers are too high. So that is why I, as a migrant, support stricter immigration laws, because ultimately we need to take care of people who are born here first, and again, stricter immigration laws. It's actually beneficial for migrants who are already here as well, like people from migrant backgrounds who are here or who want to get opportunities and all that. Like, ultimately, if Australia does better economically, then for migrants who come here, it's going to be better as well, because if the country goes downhill economically, there's not many opportunities and the floodgates are open. It's bad for everyone. So people need to get that into their minds. That's just the way it is. So, that's about it. I just want to talk about immigration. It's interesting how the Liberal and National Coalition, mainstream right-wing parties, finally seems to be getting tougher on immigration, but we'll see how it translates to the next election. I think people are still going to go for One Nation. They don't trust them at all anymore, the coalition. So, One Nation will probably continue rising. Very interesting times we're in, and I think it's only a matter of time. The right is definitely rising in Australia. Thank you for watching.